Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Amplify Your Business. Today, I am talking to Derek Nolt. He is the founder and CEO of Bladeflex, which is an innovative company here in the Edmonton region. Welcome to the show, Derek.
Thanks for having me, Lance. Glad to be here.
So, Derek, before we get into what Bladeflex is and what problem you're trying to solve with it, why don't you tell me what are three things that you think every entrepreneur needs to know based off of the experience you've had as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, that's a tough one. There's so many questions. Yeah, that somebody not knowing how the journey is gonna, materialize as they start. And so, I guess looking back, for sure, there would be a few things that I would definitely make sure new entrepreneurs would have, and that would be, having a great team on board, and if you don't know certain aspects of that, really finding those key members that would help fill some of those voids. And so, as a founder or co-founder, sometimes you rely just on your core group for a lot of answers, and that can be sometimes a little bit limiting or challenging when you try and do everything yourself. And so I think relying on outside expertise, and whether that's government grants or filling out a business plan and really having people read it and getting second opinions is really helpful. So really trying to expand your network early on would be really a beneficial thing for new people.
Excellent.
And it just really can be a trying time. So having people you can rely on. So
Okay, what would be number two then?
I guess with that, not knowing, I guess, certain aspects, maybe the financial planning side of things too. I think sometimes people think, depending on your situation, it might not be long of a road. I know early on I was working as a carpenter, and so still having some side income and other things while you develop your own projects is always helpful. So it can be challenging when you think things are going to move a little quicker than you at first thought. And so having that kind of forecast and some planning early on can really help you drive the meter forward. So
a little bit of a financial runway as well, right? Because this is one of the things that I always hear all the time is plan for it to take at least twice as long as what you think and cost twice as much.
Twice as much,
right?
10 times as much and twice as long. Whatever the numbers would be, but definitely plan for the worst and hope for the best. But with that, I think the third one would be just the resilience of yourself, whether it is financial or figuring out problems. That would be something that people should realize early on, that things aren't going to always go as planned. And so having, whether it's through other jobs you've had or other, goals that you attained in the past, I think you really have to rely on yourself as, your work ethic to get you through those challenging times. So.
Yeah, completely. Okay, so tell me a little bit about Bladeflex then. What is it that you guys are doing over there?
Yeah, so Bladeflex, we're developing more than just one product now, but initially it was a upper body rehabilitation device, which really helps the shoulders, back and neck area basically adapt into better form. And we do that with the resistance that's adjustable built into it. And so we know the muscles really can adapt into the direction that the force is applied onto them. And so it really helped me in my shoulder pain, both the anterior shoulder pain in both shoulders, and just helped myself out. And once we developed it and went to medical professionals and really got it into the trial phases, it really was something that we could see helping other people. So it was basically a rehabilitation device for the upper body is what we developed.
Excellent. And so you said that it really helped you. So did that come from an issue that you were having with your shoulders and neck?
Yeah, I actually broke my collarbone snowboarding quite a few years ago, but after that injury healed and then getting into more physically demanding jobs, I think things compound over the years, and that's when you really have to figure out how to fix yourself. And so the massages and the physio appointments helps, on a regular basis, but it's having something that you can utilize basically, whenever you need it, like not having to go seek out that professional help, and really just using something that you can use at home or in the office or anywhere you might need that extra support. So.
Yeah. So having not used it before, I don't know if I would be describing it correctly, but I think you kind of, it straps you over your shoulders, right, kind of, and stretches across your backside, right?
Mhm.
across the your shoulder blades, I guess, and then it kind of just keeps the posture correct. Is that what it does?
Yeah, and so you set it up to basically provide that resistance on where you would like to go, and so you bring your shoulders back and you set it up into a position where that's your new normal, is your standard position. So you can do that by standing up against the wall and setting your position up so your head, your shoulders, and your lower back are touching the wall. And for some people, you can't even touch your shoulders and your neck against the wall at the same time. So it's you realize, just doing the wall test, how bad maybe those three components are. And so we set it up to basically where you would like to get to. And then with that resistance through movements, we can get people to uh, move their shoulders in specific exercises, and that really adapts their muscle memory into that position where they can feel more aligned from top to bottom.
So is your target audience mostly people who have had some sort of injury? Like you mentioned, you had your collarbone broken at one point, or is it people who have, kind of repetitive tasks where they end up kind of hunching over, and it just creates just poor posture and issues then in the
Yeah,
back and shoulders?
I think a lot of people can benefit. Yeah, if you don't have injuries, I think it benefits the people the most who have had injuries, who maybe have had that repetitive tasks that you got their body into really poor positioning over time. But there are a lot of repetitive tasks, even sitting at the office or driving trucks. So that could be something that, even as a passive thing for people who don't have injuries, if they want to get more mobility in their shoulders, this would be a good option for them too. Because you do really limit your mobility when you have forward rolling shoulders, and that starts to get the neck out of place and then strain on the whole system. So
Yeah.
it can definitely benefit, I think, the people mostly have had injuries, but again, anybody who's dealing with those muscle imbalances.
Yeah. Yeah, and so I'm curious. I would think that there would be a really big growing market for this, with everybody nowadays, all our kids growing up hunched over their devices, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
so you have that rolling forward shoulders, and so I think posture. If there's going to be any point in the history of mankind in which posture is going to be a problem, it's right now, right? So
Yeah, exactly.
your audience must be growing, I would think.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah, maybe in the coming years as people develop,
Yeah.
that poor muscle memory. I think, growing up for me, it wasn't, really a thing so much, the smart devices, but now it's, the iPhone seems like it's 10 pounds heavier than it was, and than the Samsung that I had. So I don't know. I feel like, I need it more than ever. So,
Yeah.
but it's definitely interesting. Yeah, there's a lot of things that put the forward facing stresses on our bodies. And so,
Yeah.
um, spinal conditions are more of a long-term thing. And so we're developing products that work with the Bladeflex and try and help that whole spinal and kinetic chain adapt. So it's
Very interesting.
it's
Yeah.
kind of an ongoing business solution there. So
So in terms of the business then, tell me, how long have you been, in development and then now commercializing the product? Yeah, I think you mentioned around 4 years. Is that about right?
yeah, we had a couple of years in development, and it was really about a lot of trial and error. And the Bladeflex itself wasn't designed or focusing on the same design early on. It was kind of more something that could work with a bit of resistance, and we ended up changing the design early on, and even having a singular resistance in the middle, and so really splitting it up into the two components and having it much more functional. And so it did take a few years in development to find a solution that worked very efficiently, and we've been on the market a couple of years and growing now. We're growing the product line out and developing new ideas with it. So
Yeah. So in terms of your go-to-market strategy, what is that? How are you distributing this? Is it through retailers, or are you going direct to consumer? What's your business model?
our business model is primarily B2C through our website, and targeting people in the US North America markets right now. And we do have distribution in the States, and so that's our market is primarily North America, but in Canada we are covered through benefits, and so we're focusing on the physiotherapy and the clinics and really the rehabilitation sides. And so we're on some medical websites as well. So if you see our product, you can get it covered through your benefits as well. And so it's a nice option for the Canadian partners that we have.
Yeah, that's ideal from a business owner's perspective, right? Like for you to be able to tap into the benefit programs, because now it's really no cost to the consumer then in a lot of circumstances.
Yeah, or even if you've been involved in a car accident sometimes, or I think in all cases, you're given a $200 credit. And when I was involved in one, yeah, they gave me, the foam rollers or something that might help. And really, this could be something that could be given to people who've had a car accident or upper body injuries. So,
Yeah. So what are some of the challenges then do you see going forward with the growth of your business? I know you're talking about expanding into new product lines or additional product lines. Are there challenges to that? Are there challenges to distribution or marketing or financing? I know we bumped
I'll
into
leave it
each
above.
other.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the above. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So tell me what some of the ones that kind of keep you up at night. Like, what are the biggest challenges that you think you're going to be facing as you continue to grow the company?
Yeah, as we grow, we want to increase our margins. And so, anytime you're ordering product, you always get a better margin when you order larger amounts. And so early on, the margins aren't great. And then as we're scaling out, you can order larger amounts. And so that really brings your costs down. And so that's one of the challenges early on. It's, if you have X amount of dollars available that you can order large amounts, then that's fine. But if you're trying to grow a business, you got to, I guess, bite the bullet and have, you know, worse margins early on. So yeah, just having that cost available and fundraising events. Yeah, we're trying to raise around so we can launch a new product and really scale up basically those two parts.
Yeah. And so then from a manufacturing standpoint, is this all manufactured offshore then? And so then you're importing the finished product, or are you doing some manufacturing here?
Yeah, we did initially manufacture here, and we had local seamstresses and uh, you know local other manufacturers of different parts that we have, and so that was kind of nice to work with some of those local companies. And so as we scale, we're going to still do some here, but yeah, it's going to be offshored and then just shipped directly to the US, from our manufacturer. And so just saves a lot of the shipping costs, and of course, like just the scale of manufacturing. It's quite difficult to do
Yeah.
when things do cost a lot more in Canada. So
Yeah, yeah, for sure. But I mean, one of the big challenges that most companies are having right now who are doing offshore manufacturing is just supply chain management. So how have you been able to manage that as you're growing your company at the same time?
yeah, so we do have a good fulfillment center in the US, and so they have direct lines that can basically divert from consolidated shipping, so they don't have to offload like a traditional container. So we can actually get like a 3-week turnaround time, which is normally about
Oh,
3 months. So yeah, we did find a good partner that can have a streamlined supply chain for us.
yeah, that's huge for you, but your customers and not having those delays. I mean, it keeps that cash flow going, right? Which is really
Yeah.
big.
Yeah, and you might see, if a product is getting drop shipped, like the way we did it, developing from scratch is a lot harder. And, the challenges of not having somebody that you can just bring a product straight to your customer from overseas, and that's obviously a business model for some, but again, developing a unique system and your own supply chain, it's much more challenging, but you control, I guess, all aspects of it. So that's good.
Yeah. So what percentage of your sales would be direct to consumer versus, run through some of the physiotherapy, massage therapy, some of these other retail oriented or distributor
Uh,
oriented
yeah, it's probably about
channels?
80% online. It's a majority online, so we're going to be
Okay.
pushing those channels and really
Yeah.
scaling up those. Getting onto YouTube and doing a little bit more sports endorsements, and so really working with
Yeah.
some of our partners here and growing those channels in the next year. So
Yeah. So now, as you are developing the product and you're thinking about that go to market strategy, there'd be a lot of people who are listening to this right now who could be in a similar situation where they have a product and they're trying to figure out, okay, do I focus on, the retails and distribution channels that way, or do I really focus on direct to consumer? So when you were making those evaluations, why did you choose to go more into the direct to consumer versus the more traditional distribution channels?
Yeah, I think knowing our customer and finding those right key demographics is easier online, and so through social platforms and direct to consumer. So the retail play has a little bit less margins and more about volume. So I think that's kind of a secondary step that you have to kind of grow first, and then once you get your supply chain and your customers figured out, then the retailers would be interested. And so a lot of times, yeah, the retail play might work for some, but like the Connor McDavid's and the people who have the brand and the money, he has his own line of braces or other things for the wrist and ankles and stuff. And so you go into sport checks and you see them on the shelf pretty quick. But I think for anybody starting out, yeah, you definitely want to start learning about your customer, growing that demographic and finding your key avatars, and then the retail will come, and the margins won't be as good. So it's about volume at that point. So
Yeah, yeah. So now, in terms of your journey to this point, have you been in any of the accelerators or within the startup community? What kind of support have you been able to get through the community and through some of the different programs that might be available?
yeah, we've been a part of a few different groups. Health City, Alberta Innovates. We received a grant from Alberta Innovates for some intellectual property, and Health City paid for courses through Bahala Angels or other local investor groups that do hold camps where they teach young entrepreneurs who would not know maybe the business models to run and your customers and what to expect when you actually seek out other investments. And so really relying on those sources for inspiration and just getting into the game a little bit and learning how it works when you start talking to investors and working on deal structure. I think it's very important to really rely on other people who can help you along the way.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that circles back to that point that you were making at the beginning, right? Where you were saying, this is something that every entrepreneur needs to know, and that's surrounding yourself with that team, right? It's beyond just the employee base, beyond the people that you're having, support the growth of the business internally. It's also the external community too.
Yeah, it's been awesome. Yeah, and sometimes, yeah, again, you don't know which direction you might go into, and with us new products, or if it's like we're developing a motion capture system, so adding a tech component, I think it's important to really work with other partners, and that's a good way to grow your own, is helping other people in their businesses as well. So
Yeah, yeah, completely. So I'm curious, if you had the ability to write yourself a letter and send that back to, Derek of 4 years ago, or when you were, starting down this path, what would be in that letter?
yeah, definitely. Yeah, like my patent lawyer kind of said too, like in the beginning, like, you try and see down the road like as much as you can, but sometimes you just don't know what that next iteration is, or uh, tech piece or partner. And so it's, yeah, definitely challenging. I think it would be just having the foresight, if you can, when early on, is to not be just thinking about one product or one category, but really thinking about it as a whole business, and seeing what other areas that you might be able to grow that, and it might be different than what you initially started out as. So
Yeah, yeah. And that's actually brings up a really interesting follow-up question, I think, and that is, in terms of, at what stage do you know that it's right to basically bring on that second product? Because I mean, this is still a relatively new product to the marketplace, and so when you start diverting your attention into more SKUs, that could be a
yeah.
distraction, right? And so, and also, it could also be another drain on resources too, whether it's your time or money and so on. So how do you know when the time is right to add another item to the SKU?
Yeah, it's definitely hard to manage all those things at once. I think you do want to grow one product, as much as you can initially. For us, we had our customers reach out and saying it would be good to have this attachment or that attachment, or be able to do this and that. And I think, working with our kinetic chain experts and having different exercises, we want to incorporate a little bit of weight in it as well, and really working on that full postural chain. So Yeah, it's kind of like the horse before the cart, but I think our initial product's really good, but it's the complementary products that are going to make it so much better. So it's a challenge. Yeah, you want to have it all at once, but you really got to, you know, take it one bite at a time, so to speak. So
Yeah, yeah, it's difficult to know, right? When is the right time? But it sounds like in your case anyway, that these aren't independent, products as much as they are complementary in the sense that it's going to also help accelerate the
it does,
sales.
yeah. So it kind of
Yeah.
goes back to the square one, like with any other product that we're adding on, it would be good to order that 10,000 units, but we're actually going to just start with like 100 or so. Like our backpack attachments allows people to go out on the trails and have it on with some snacks or some water to add that weight to it. So it strengthens your core a little bit more. And so it was something that we could order just a few hundred instead of going for that large round. So it is about just kind of going back to how we started the first one and seeing what's going to work with the new product before you actually order a lot. So
Yeah, yeah, completely. But I think that this is just a really cool innovation that you've created, and something where it just you don't have a background in any of this stuff, really, right?
no,
I
just
mean,
a
this is
PhD in pain, I say. Yeah. So
PhD in pain, like that. Yeah,
yeah, it's like I need
which is
help.
so true.
So yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So I'm
like
I'm gonna fix it myself. I'm gonna figure out a way to do it. Yeah.
yeah.
So what inspired you to take that leap of faith and like really go, this is something that I want to turn into a business at some point? Do you have a family that has a background in entrepreneurialism, or is this something that is just really new to you and you just believed in the solution so much?
Yeah, I kind of had an idea to maybe develop something after I broke my collarbone, and they gave me a medical splint, and it was really restrictive, and that's what they sell for posture devices on the market. They're very restrictive, and then the idea kind of just went away for a couple of years, actually. But then you get injured again, and then you kind of look back, and it's like, well, my injuries are still here. Like, it's hard to really overcome these muscle imbalances. So with prototyping a little bit cheaper than it used to be with 3D printers, I found a local engineer. And when you develop something that's minimum viable product that actually works for yourself, then you kind of think, well, yeah, then you go down the manufacturing road, which is even more challenging than the initial 3D prototype product. So then we redesigned it again for molding overseas. And then, yeah, it was just, from there, it's kind of like, well, once we got that product landed, it worked really well that we just at that point, wanted to move forward with it. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, really cool. Well, thanks so much, Derek. I really appreciate you sharing your story, and I wish you, all the success that I'm sure is in front of you here. It's gonna be a great product with, like I was saying before, I think it's a growing
yeah,
marketplace, and so there's definitely a need there. So good on you
yeah,
for
for sure.
finding it. Yeah.
One step
Okay.
at a time, though. Yeah. Thanks so much.
And for those of you who are watching this episode today, if you enjoyed this one and want to check out some other entrepreneurial stories and the journeys of those who are making some really cool products out there, head over to amplifyyourbusiness.ca and you're going to find the archive there. And if you are watching but would prefer to be listening, you can find us by searching Amplify Your Business on all of the major podcasting platforms. So until next time, everybody have a prosperous day. And thank you again so much, Derek, for sharing your story.
Yeah, thanks a bunch, Lance. See you guys.